Do you like the Oakland A's? Are you a fan of the Golden Knights? Do you love the Los Angeles Chargers? Well then, my friend, you're in the right place. This is the Snake Sports Talk Show with your host, Jake the Snake Silva, brought to you by the Spotlight Sports Network.
A couple of scouts and some of the analysts who were evaluating all of these new draftees said that Justin Fields, quarterback of Ohio State, good kid, competitive, has a heck of an arm, and can move around the pocket. His quarterback comparison, his player comparison, was to Justin Herbert. Let me note something here with you folks, because this is no knock, but let's try to clear the smoke in the air. Because a lot of this, I feel like, is just kind of, we're all optometrists. We all like to see things. We were optometrists when it came to Joe Burrow, where he had feet like Joe Montana. He had a presence like Tom Brady, and then had this type of character and charisma when it comes to the pocket and when it comes to the audibles and the huddle, like a Peyton Manning. Those were the comps. Okay. Here's what's going to be interesting and what I'm about to tell you about Justin Fields. Because right now, the drafts, like for his draft stock, it's rising up. But think about a couple of games that he played in college. Okay. And under this was in a different head coaching. Didn't have at least Urban Meyer at the time. But Justin Fields, and you have to think about all of the programs within the conference that they're playing under in the Big Ten. You're facing off against Michigan, who Jim Harbaugh can't get the quarterback position right. And the recruiting is kind of iffy. You have Michigan State. You have a bunch of these other schools. Wisconsin. Probably the only competitive school that I think you'd probably get every bang of your buck is Wisconsin. Wisconsin's got real good defense. They're even a real hard grinding, ground and pound game when it comes to their running backs. I mean, we've seen this with a lot of players. Jonathan Taylor, Melvin Gordon. We've seen this with a lot of them. But ultimately, when you play outside a conference, when you're playing teams like Alabama in the SEC or LSU or Florida or in any instances, this is where it all kind of comes out. Justin Fields, I think, is a good kid. I think he's a real good player. He's got an accurate arm. He's a guy that can end up moving around in the pocket. And I think kind of brings this special presence. But you have to look at the difference between him and Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, the second he came into this league, you have to realize all the years that he spent in Oregon. You had a conservative coach who was also a really good protective offensive line coach. And then you have to think of how many times he can or he could not execute, or maybe because of the play style, he either had to execute it or don't even run the play at all. It was more of just he had to go by play rather than just let him loose. So that's what it was about Justin Herbert in Oregon. But the one thing that all of us, yes, all of us, myself included, even the audience watching tonight, and even for some of us here on the network, we all made these assumptions. We all do. That's just what we do when it comes to the draft. We all make assumptions about a lot of players. The assumption we had on Justin Herbert was he had a strong, accurate arm, could throw a ball, but we weren't sure how big of an impact he was going to have in the league, not just for the Chargers. But then the second Justin Herbert touches the field in the NFL, a lot of us, it took our breaths away. And it was incredible. And Justin Herbert is one of those guys that I think is a talent that can compete with Patrick Mahomes, can compete with Trevor Lawrence, with a lot of these young quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, Russell Wilson, all these quarterbacks I feel like he can compete with. The arm accuracy, the strength, not to mention how he holds his ground, and just the way he sees things. Of course, you're going to end up running into at least to a couple of mistakes. But the thing is, think about the quarterback rating while he's under pressure. The quarterback rating was over 100. Nobody would ever see that. Russell Wilson gets up under pressure, but yet does not have a quarterback rating like that. Patrick Mahomes rarely gets under pressure because he has an offensive line. For Justin Herbert, knowing that he has a lacking offensive line, the quarterback rating under pressure, it didn't even matter to him. You could have all these defenders in his face, all these different pass rushers. I mean, my good God, you watched the game against Tampa. You had Shaq Barrett, you had Levante David, you have a lot of these pass rushers that are in your face and still drops a dime to Jalen Guyton. Those are some of the things that are outside of what analysts and what scouts would write on a little piece of paper. These are all the tangibles. These are all of the things that make Justin Herbert. Justin Fields has a strong, accurate arm. He's tough. But when you watch him under pressure, did you watch some of the games when he was up under pressure? There were some of the things he could not completely execute. He played really good against Clemson, but then died down the second they played Alabama, because Alabama and Nick Saban are all defensive-minded coaches. I mean, that's just how it is for that program. They have real good defensive guys. And knowing Nick Saban, he will use all the abilities of some of his youngsters when it comes to defense. That's why you have such good defensive prospects coming out of Bama. So that's the one thing that I worry about with Justin Fields. If he goes to the Jets, let me just tell you this. Do you really think Justin Fields will be successful with a rebuilding offensive line in the Jets when you're facing New England, Buffalo, and Miami that are tough defenses in the AFC East twice a year? And let alone some of the other teams that they'll be playing against that I'm sure are probably going to be tough defenses. He's going to have pressure in his face. Or if you put him into Atlanta, if he gets drafted by the Falcons, which I would never understand why, but you're facing against Tampa, Carolina, and the Saints, another tough, defensive team, another tough defensive division, because Tampa's already re-signed all 22 of their players, and they've got all their defensive players back. You've got New Orleans with Marshawn Lattimore, Cameron Jordan, and a lot of other really good ones, Kiko Alonso. They have a lot of real good defensive players that can get in your face. And you have Carolina, that they've got a young defense, but is only getting better. Shaq Thompson and Jeremy Chin and a bunch of others.